far. And we'll see if he can do it again here against this Grixis control deck. Again, the diversity here is really what's been telling so far. Just a lot of decks that we didn't expect to see. A lot of players playing Grixis control. Ely Cassis with a good weekend. He lost his match playing for top 8. Kevin Jones, a good run. Demicco here with the deck. Some players we did not expect to see, and some decks we didn't expect to see.
Grixis control being on the up twitch rather makes a lot of sense to me. I think it's a very cool deck. I like the access to having a lot of removal. I think it's got a very good matchup against Blue Red Delver. Makes a lot of sense right now.
Yeah,
it's going to be put to the test here, though.
Taking a look at this deck list here from Ed. Yeah, this is Ely Cassis through and through. I'm taking a look at all the numbers here. The one Instant Blood, the one Dig Through Time, the one Dak Faden.
It's that list.
Yeah.
The Mountain in the sideboard, I'm assuming.
Taking a look. Yeah, he's got the Mountains to run over the recoil. Yep. Ely got to him.
Yeah, Kevin Jones as well. They were all playing the same 75.
Yeah. Again, Ely Cassis lost playing for top 8 with that deck this week. At a Grand Prix New Jersey, he finished X and 2, so he qualified for a Pro Tour Fate Reforged. So that deck, when I played the pickup games with it against you when you were playing Burn at Grand Prix New Jersey, I was very impressed. And Ely is someone who flies under the radar a little bit if you don't follow Legacy a ton. But if you do follow Legacy quite a bit, you know about his pedigree in the format. He knows what he's doing there.
Built a bunch of cool decks. Celebrates the entire format, isn't just playing Delver every single week. It's very impressive stuff. And this Grixis control deck, he was really the only one doing anything like this. And now I feel like the deck's starting to get a little bit of traction.
You see these players taking a look at each other's deck lists here. Of course, you can find these on our coverage page over at StarCityGames.com. If you want to find out more information about exactly what has made the top 8, the top 16, all that stuff. I know there are some data miners out there like Jerry Thompson who love to see what the deck lists do look like. But it's important that both these players know each other's deck lists, especially Ross taking a look at the Grixis control deck list, knowing that, all right, there are 3 Cabal therapies. For Ed's side, Ed will have a better idea of what to name when he's playing against Storm. Ross also has Cabal therapies of his own, so he'll know what to name when he's playing against Ed. There are some dead draws in there. Cards like Forked Bolt, Lightning Bolt. Ross won't care very much about those. He will care about the 4 copies of Force of Will, of course. 2 main deck Pyroblast that he needs to be careful of as well.
Definitely more information gained here from Ross than for Ed. Ed probably knows within 57 or 58 cards what Ross is playing regardless. For Ross, having the information of what he needs to play around, what he needs to name with Cabal Therapy, super valuable.
Yeah, to me, it's so interesting. And the fact that you get to look at each other's deck lists and how you kind of take in that information. And, what information really stands out to you. What exactly are you looking for? What are you looking to ignore? And also you have to keep in mind that your opponent gets information from you as well. So Ed's going to know exactly what Ross is up to. Ross is on this version with the main deck Grim Tutor, for example, where a lot of players don't have that. Some people like Brian Cook go the Burning Wish route where they don't have a win condition in their main deck and they have to wish for it. So that can influence some decisions, but pretty straightforward Storm approach here from Merriam.
Definitely.
Both players are going to take a look at their opening hands here for the quarterfinals of our Legacy Open. It's been fun 2 days here in Philadelphia. 8 players left of the 566. Eventually, there will only be one who walks away with 25 Open Series points, $5,000, and a large trophy.
I think it's fair to say that our first 2-day Legacy Open, quite the success.
Hard to argue otherwise. Merriam going to start with a Scalding Tarn. He's down at 19. It's an Underground Sea, as it oftentimes is. We'll see what Ross wants to do on the first turn. A little cantrip action, perhaps a discard spell, and he will go with Duress. Wants to get a good idea of what Demicco is working with. So there you do see Ed's hand of 2 Young Pyromancers, 2 copies of Pyroblast, a Ponder, along with an Underground Sea and a Polluted Delta. There's a red herring here.
This is not a very good hand.
No.
I believe Ross will select Ponder. Normally Storm goes straight for the interaction, but this is one of the rare times where Ed's hand is poor enough that Ross can attack the cantrips and try to break up his start.
And you see Ed even starting to pull the Ponder over towards his graveyard, knowing that this is likely the card that's going to go, but Ross is actually going to take Pyroblast. A little surprise there?
I think that means Ross has to have a second copy of Duress. That's
okay.
The only card that would stand to reason there. And then he wants to follow up with more blue cantrips after the fact.
Ponder the draw. Demicco will go with a copy of Polluted Delta as his first land. And he will sacrifice that. Perhaps searching for a volcanic island, and he will. And now it's time to cast a Ponder, it seems. You may think better of it, though.
Yeah, if Ross was willing to take the red blast the first time around, maybe you assume that you need to leave it up the next turn to protect you from whatever blue card he's trying to force through.
And that does not like the cards he's looking at there in Young Pyromancer, a land, and a copy of Gataxian Probe, so he is going to shuffle. See if he can find a better mystery card, as the top three were not what he was looking for.
I mean, if Ross was willing to take a Pyroblast out of that hand, that means something pretty specific's going on.
4 to bolt the draw.
Perfect.
Yeah. Merriam with the Brainstorm now. So 3 cards coming here for him. 2, of course, will go back. And we'll see if he can find a fetch land among these cards to make it a perfect Brainstorm.
Ross was mentioning to us, you know, getting to play with Brainstorm. It's been a lot of fun, to put it mildly.
There's a Pluto Delta. It's hard to pass up on Brainstorm. It is a lot of fun. Makes for just a different, it's much different than playing with elves, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's no Elvish Visionary, but Brainstorm has its merits too.
And for what it's worth, Ross has drawn quite a few cards with Elves Visionary over the past year and a half. But there is no substitute for brainstorming plus fetching. One of the most powerful interactions in the format. One could argue the most powerful.
The most powerful. I'll make that argument right now.
The follow-up here is another blue cantrip. So while the Pyroblast shield is down, Merriam taking the opportunity to brainstorm and ponder. We'll see if Merriam can find what he is looking for to build towards that critical storm count. He's done it quite a few times this weekend, going 12-3.
And Ross is always conscious of trying to beat Force of Will. Even though the shields were down last turn, let's say he tries to go for it next turn, it's maybe only a couple looks at some cards with some draw sets and some ponders. He's still trying to map out a line of play that allows him to beat Force of Will off the top.
A lengthy ponder here from Merriam. Ponder is done resolving.
If he's waiting this long, it probably signals that he's contemplating casting either a Lotus Petal or a Lion's Eye Diamond.
Yeah, it is interesting. Yeah, there's Lion's Eye Diamond. And now I'll pass the turn back. It's tough when you're supposed to pick your spots with that. You know, do you want to play it on the turn to add to the storm count, or do you want to play it now so it doesn't get hit with either a counter spell or a discard spell?
Yeah.
That's the big question. Demicco considering pondering again, though it looks like he wants to do it off of the Underground Sea that's in his hand. Or maybe sacrifice a Scalding Tarn. Very unsure of himself at this point, but he will go with the Sea. And now here's Ponder. So Ed will take a look at 3 cards, and he doesn't like that one either. Very quickly shuffling. Again, he's got a lot of air in his deck, game 1.
Yeah, a lot of bolts.
Of the Forked and Lightning variety.
And those are the consequences of metagaming this hard for Blue-Red Delver. I mean, that hand right now is no good.
And it's the ups and the downs. I mean, this deck destroys Blue-Red Delver, though.
Yes.
So those burn spells are very useful in that matchup, but they are not useful here. Mystery card coming for Demicco. Looks like it's just a land. And he'll have to pass the turn back with the Pyroblast at the ready. Merriam will draw.
You get the sense that Ross has got to be close.
If he's playing a Lion's Eye Diamond like that, it feels that way.
Having resolved a Brainstorm and a Ponder.
Maybe the question now for him is, am I supposed to go for it?
Well, he knows he has to beat a Pyroblast, which is usually not that hard to do. In fact, often when this deck is going off, there's no blue cards involved at all. And he wants to be able to beat the possibility of Force of Will, have them being drawn off the top.
It's always the tough part, though. You don't want to get it wrong. If you get it wrong, it's bad news. He's going to duress. This is going to be a lightning bolt in response.
Okay. I guess whatever, you can't take it with you.
That's true. There goes Pyroblast. Two young Pyromancers, a forked bolt, and a scalding tarn are the cards here for Ed.
Ed very much acting like a man resigned to his fate here over the last couple of turns.
Game one is bad news, and his hand's not great. And now Ross is doing the math. Here's a Lion's Eye Diamond, and now we're gonna have a ball. Here's an Infernal Tutor. On the stack, while Merriam does hold priority, he will activate his Lion's Eye Diamonds. He will generate some mana. Past in Flames is the card discarded. He'll go grab a Cabal Ritual. And if he is grabbing that, he's got a plan to be sure.
Just looking to generate a lot, and you can flash back the Past in Flames, cast again.
Looks like he's found a combination of cards that he is very, very happy with in the graveyard. Again, he did have 6 mana. He played a Cabal Ritual with Threshold, so down to 4, up to 9. 9 minus 5 is 4. Then he plays his Cabal Ritual, so he's gaining mana on the way. Now he will cast a copy of Duress, take that forked bolt away.
This is just to add to the storm count.
An Infernal Tutor. And we can't forget that Ed did help him a little bit, casting that Lightning Bolt. That's a card for the Storm.
Well, you know, you're at a point there where it's pretty hopeless. It's hard to imagine that it comes down to one bit of Storm, and the Bolt may make it more complicated if Ross is trying to go off with ad nauseum. I don't mind casting it. Whatever, can't take it with you.
That's for sure.
Let him know what's up.
Ross Merriam going to win game number 1 here over Ed Demicco. Storm up a game here over Grixis Control. Players taking a look at each other's sideboard, and we will do the same. We will start with Demicco, and you'll see a Grafdigger's Cage, Nile Spellbomb, a Null Rod, a Sabo's Web, a Zoran Orb, 2 copies of Hydroblast, 2 copies of Pyroblast, the Smash the Smithereens, a Surgical Extraction, a Massacre, a Sudden Demise, and a Mountain. What do we like?
So I definitely like Surgical Extraction here, as it can occasionally break up the combo. I like the 2 copies of Pyroblast, although there's already 2 in the main deck, and you can have too much of that effect, so maybe you stay at 2, but I can see more than that coming in. The Nile Spellbomb I like in this matchup. The Null Rod, very good against Ross's base of artifact mana with Lion's Eye Diamond and Lotus Petal as well. And then 1 copy of Grafdigger's Cage, some people bring in. I'm not a fan of it, but some people do bring it in to try to fight the Past in Flames kill.
There may be enough cards here for Ed to sideboard out. He has things like Innocent Blood and all of those bolts in his deck that Grafdigger's Cage may just come in because he's got so many bad cards in his deck.
I think that's true, and I think you might see the additional Pyroblast come in for the same reason. There's just a lot of dead weight in the deck, and these cards, though not great, are probably better than having 4 bolts and lightning bolts and Innocent Bloods and so forth.
What stands out to you here is a sideboard there for Demicco that's not really geared towards Storm.
Exactly. Now, this deck is not trying to beat Storm game 1, nor is it trying to beat Storm games 2 and 3.
For Merriam, you'll see 2 Xantid Swarms, 3 Carpet of Flowers, 3 copies of Abrupt Decay, 2 Chain of Vapor, an Empty the Warrens, a Pyroclasm, a Tropical Island, and 2 copies of Massacre. Anything stand out there?
I think Carpet of Flowers is okay here, and I think the 1 Empty the Warrens is a fine backup kill. There is the risk, if you're in Ross's position, that you may not have access to your graveyard. You're looking at Nile Spellbomb plus Grafdigger's Cage, so having a way to win that doesn't involve Past in Flames could be nice.
Well, these players are going to finish sideboarding and shuffling, and of course taking a look at each other's deck lists to know exactly what 75 each other has access to. But we've talked about Season 1. That's underway here for 2015. We were in Columbus last week. We're in Philadelphia this week. We are off next weekend, but then we're going to continue things in D.C., where I expect a lot of those players on page 1 of the leaderboard to be in attendance.
Absolutely. If you can make it to Philadelphia, you can probably make it to D.C. We're going to be off next weekend for Favorite Forge, but then back at in D.C., Indianapolis for our 2nd Legacy Open of the year at the end of the month. We're going to be off the week after that for the Pro Tour and Regionals. StarCityGames.com/regionals for more information. The events are posted there. The following weekend, we go to Houston for the first time in Open Series history. LA after that. Baltimore for our first ever Modern Open Series. A standard Grand Prix the following weekend in Miami. Make sure to stay tuned to MagicGP.com for more information as we get a bit closer to that event. then Dallas, and 2 weekends after that, the Season 1 Invitational in Richmond, Virginia. Standard and Legacy will be the formats for the Invitational, accompanied by a Standard Open Series and a Modern and Legacy Premier IQ.
Going to be a busy weekend there in Richmond, but it's going to be busy all throughout Quarter 1 of the Open Series. Hopefully we'll have time to see you at any or all of them.
Just show up to all of them. I will be at literally all of them.
You will be. Even I get a weekend off.
Even you get it. Yep.
I get one. I don't get to do the Modern event in Baltimore, unfortunately. I'm really looking forward to that event too.
That's going to be fun. I have to do a crash course on Modern. I cover a lot of Standard. I cover a lot of Legacy. Modern's a bit of a blind spot for me, but I'm going to get my crash course in the next month or two. After the Pro Tour, post-bannings, I'll be good to go.
Post-Treasure Cruise ban?
Post-likely Treasure Cruise ban,
It
yes.
is rather likely. I'm inclined to agree. It's fun, but maybe it's a little too fun. Maybe a little too fun.
Nothing is fun when it becomes in too heavy of a rotation.
But hey, you're gonna be a Modern guy. Burnt's good in Modern. Boom, baby.
It's good-ish.
That's pretty good. Idle on the Great Rail is pretty good, man.
And I don't like the implication that Burn is not good in Legacy, which is what that seems to imply.
That's not. I don't like when you put words in my mouth. That's not what I said.
Okay.
You're assuming that I am saying that, but that's not what I'm saying. Not at all. Burn is fine in Legacy. Quick update for you guys in other matches. Peter Johnson with Sneak and Show is up a game here over Ross Prasner playing Elves. Not too surprising. Number 1 overall seed gets to play first with Sneak and Show against Elves. I like him in that matchup. And then Daryl Errors in the Teamer Delver Mirror, Kurt Ape City, USA. He's up a game against Ralph Patesh.
Big deal break and serve, because that's not easy to do.
That's true. So many Kurt Apes, so little time. Actually, I'm going to do a little check. There might be more Kurt Apes in this top 8 than Treasure Cruises.
I don't think that's true.
Maybe I just want it to be true.
Because there's the same number of Treasure Cruises in the Teamer Delver decks.
All right, fine.
And over here, Treasure Cruise, but no Kurt Ape.
All right, all right.
Listen, I want it to be true too, but I don't think it is.
You know, Ed could fit in Kurt Ape into his deck.
Would not be that hard.
Little bit of rejiggering of the mana could be done.
It wouldn't take very much.
Probably,
you know, it's a combo.
better than Baleful Strix.
You know what's a combo with Kurt Ape, by the way?
What's that?
Massacre.
Yeah.
Kurt Ape's still in play, and their stuff's dead. And then you attack for 0 that turn, but then the following turns, it's gravy.
It's not about that turn with the attack, though.
Right.
Because you've killed their stuff. It's about the following turn where you let them know who you are.
Right.
I understand what you're getting at.
Yeah, if I have a mountain and a forest and a swamp, and you have a plains, and all of your creatures are 2/2s or smaller, this is going to be awesome.
Those all seem like very easy things to meet. I see no problem.
Listen, I'm just saying, think outside the box.
Well, that's where we are. We're
Yep.
not even close to inside the box. I can
Ape,
promise you that much.
Kurt Ape makes me so happy. You know why? It's the first combo that I ever discovered as a Magic player. And it's a serious thing. Magic's a really complicated game. You start learning how to play. There's a million cards out there. You don't know how to even begin to build a deck. And everything seems very strange. And all the cards that just give you this very simple instruction on how to go about building a deck are so valuable for new players. For me, it was Kurt Ape. I was like, okay, this thing's a sweet deal if I'm playing red and green. I'll build a red-green deck with 4 copies of Kurt Ape. Awesome. For some people, it would say Lord of Atlantis, which appeared in Alpha, or Goblin King. These cards are really important. And for me, Kurt Ape was the right place at the right time.
For me, it was Polar Kraken.
Polar Kraken is sweet.
Unbeatable is the word you're looking for.
Unbeatable.
Unbeatable.
Really good once it's in play. But even that's not even particularly true.
Hey.
It's fine once it's in play.
Hey. The Kraken is unbeatable. A Gataxian Probe here from Ed will show that Ross has a Gataxian Probe of his own, along with a Preordain, a Brainstorm, and some lands, 2 copies of Underground Sea, a Swamp, and a Scalding Tarn.
Very land-heavy opening that is leaning on this Brainstorm to clean it up.
Now here's a Cabal Therapy. And Ed says, give me that Brainstorm. Uh-oh. Look who's made an appearance to the feature match area.
Comes into play tap because we wouldn't want this thing blocking the turn you cast it for 11 mana or whatever.
Keep up, keep sacrifice the land. Got plenty of those.
Yep. Assuming you have 11 mana, you probably have some lands to sack. Comes into play tapped, I would imagine for power level reasons.
And Trample. Best of luck, really, beating that thing. Ross will play a Cabal Therapy of his own. Oof. 2 Cataxian Probes bite the dust, leaving Ed with a Brainstorm, a Treasure Cruise, and a Polluted Delta. Demicco going to play that Polluted Delta, and now he will maybe cast this Brainstorm.
Though, as bad as that therapy is for Ed, and it's definitely bad, I think he's got a pretty good shot of winning this game if it's played basically empty-handed, especially because he has Treasure Cruise.
Yeah, and he actually has access to 2 right now within this Brainstorm. Now, of course, he does need to put 2 cards back, and he does have a fetch land to make it a perfect Brainstorm. Force of Will, also one of the cards he's looking at here.
Well, now he's got to contemplate, is there just too much juice here in this Brainstorm for me to want to shuffle away? I think the second copy of Treasure Cruise can pretty safely be shuffled away, but past that, you're looking at shuffling away Force of Will, Ponder, or Brainstorm. I guess of the bunch, I would shuffle away the Brainstorm, but then you're shuffling away a Brainstorm.
Well, he very quickly decided he did want to shuffle, and now he's going to cast a Ponder, too. It looks like he has 6 cards in his graveyard at this point. Ponder will be number 7, so he can cruise next turn.
We'll see if Ross has a follow-up discard spell.
The cards that Demicco looking at, not all that spectacular. Lightning Bolt, Cataxian Probe, and a land, and he's going to shuffle here with Ponder.
But a pretty solid opening thus far for Ed. I mean, again, those therapies sting, but if he's able to get to Treasure Cruise, he should be just fine.
Merriam going to give the deck a long shuffle. Mystery card coming here for Demicco. And he'll just pass the turn back over to Ross. Ross will take a draw. This is a preordain. Going to take a look at the top 2. Decide where he wants him to go. And it looks like one on top, one on the bottom. Preordain resolves. Ross will take that card. There is a land, and this is a Cabal Therapy. And we will see what he does name. And he goes with Treasure Cruise.
Now this is really bad for Ed. I mean, that Treasure Cruise was his consolation prize in all of this, and now he's left with just Force of Will.
If you were curious about the power level of Cabal Therapy, it is on display here.
Cabal Therapy Cataxian Probe is just, it's simply too good.
Recoil there in Demicco's hand, along with Force of Will and a fetch land.
I guess any 1-for-1 trade is okay.
Yeah.
He's got to try to strip Ross low of resources. And again, it's better than the bolts.
Preordain will put both cards to the bottom. Merriam will take a mystery card. A Polluted Delta and just a passing of the turn. Will send us back to Demicco's way.
Ross has now all day to get set up here.
Well, what's the rush? No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure.
Well, pressure may have joined the party a little bit here in Young Pyromancer. That was the draw for Demicco, and he will deploy that. Merriam will draw. We'll play a Brainstorm with 3 fetch lands in play. It's probably going to be a pretty good one. Demicco looking at his Force of Will. Perhaps he's going to cast it here.
Well, you know Ross had a pretty land opening hand, heavy hand. He's drawn some more lands. You know that he knows about your Force of Will, so any discard spells going after it anyway. And then ultimately decides not to Brainstorm, but I think it's pretty close because I just don't know what else that Force of Will is going to do this game.
Yeah. You do mention the fact that it is going to bite a discard spell at some point.
We've seen Ross easily navigate against Force of Will under no pressure.
Yeah. Ross going to sacrifice a Scalding Tarn, going to search for the land here. We'll see which one it'll be. He's got quite a few options. He'll go with a Volcanic Island. Keep it simple.
But you can see the challenges that Ed has in the matchup. It's hard for him to apply pressure and disrupt. Harder than it is even for Blue-Red Delver. And Blue-Red Delver over the weekend, to me, has shown that it does not have enough pressure and disruption unless it has access to Cabal Therapy as well.
Well, our first match is in the books. Peter Johnson with Sneak and Show has destroyed Ross Prajner playing Elves. When we're 20 minutes into this one, it did not take long for Peter Johnson to get the job done. So congratulations to our #1 overall seed. He moves on. He'll be playing the winner of this match between Ed Demicco and Ross Merriam as Demicco sends into the red zone there with a young Pyromancer. Here's a copy of Ponder. Dig through time along with the lightning bolts, and it looks like an island there among the options Demicco decides to keep.
Well, now he's got a dig through time, which is great. Also, if he wants to, he can simply sit back on his 2 Force of Wills now that he has 2 blue cards to pair with them.
Now we've got Nick Cummings up a game. These players, I guess it is Legacy. It's a fast-moving format. There's some combo decks in the top 8, too.
Well, we got Storm, we got Omnitel, we got Sneak and Show, 2 Teamer Delver decks.
We could be out of here.
This could be a fast day.
It really could be. Yeah, they're pretty quick, these players, too. Cummings, of course, playing Omnitel, up a game against David Long playing lands. I think an expected result there.
Yeah, that's the most lopsided matchup of our top 8, for sure.
David Long, no slouch with lands. Quite the player, in fact, but boy, is that matchup tough. Demicco going to do a little bit of delving here for his dig through time.
When your deck is called lands, you often have only so much wiggle room, you know?
There's only so much you can do.
It's not called spells, it's called lands. So there's some limitations built in.
Demicco going to take a look at the top 7. And he'll get to take 2 with him. Now, this is actually a pretty good dig through time. There's a Cabal Therapy, a Force of Will in there, a Pyroblast too. And if you're on Ed's side, I think you might sense a little bit of weakness here in Ross's hand. Ross has 5 lands in play.
Yeah, you knew his start was pretty land heavy to begin with, and Force of Will plus Cabal Therapy is a great pairing. He's got double counterspell backup, some pressure in play, and the ability to attack Ross's hand. This is a great setup.
Here is Cabal Therapy. Want to make sure you get those young Pyromancer triggers, of course. So there's your elemental token. And Infernal Tutor is the name. You see Merriam's hand here. There's a Dark Ritual, a Carpet of Flowers, a Lion's Eye Diamond, and a copy of Bloodstained Mire. So what he was missing was just a discard spell.
This hand right now is a dead end, all mana, and he's playing against 2 copies of Force of Will.
Gonna flash back Cabal Ritual, and you see Ed not even moving the tokens because what he'll do is he'll sacrifice a token and make one with young Pyromancers. So it's kind of a freebie to destroy Merriam's hand there.
Though, that's good for Ed, but given Ross's hand is not the end of the world because it's not like the extra mana accounts for much anyway. The problem now for Ross is there's a lot of pressure coming across. He's dead in 3 turns, and he's got to be 2 Force of Will. So he basically has to draw perfect from here.
We could say 3 now as land number 5 just came into play.
Yeah.
So that's even scarier.
He's even insulated from Cabal therapies because he can just Force a Will a Cabal therapy if it gets cast.
And a game that was not looking great for Demicco is looking pretty good now. Merriam will draw another card. He'll pick up his 5 lands, and we're going to move on to game number 3. Is that Demicco able to tie things up here against Ross Merriam? Grixis Control and Storm headed to a 3rd one.
So all counter spells. I'm skeptical of that plan against Storm, but counter spells plus discard, then you got something going.
You're speaking my language.
Now you got a stew going.
Absolutely. See the options here for both players. Ross very quickly going back to his sideboard. Did not like how that game went at all, so he'll consult Ed's deck list. That'll take a look at Ross's, and while the players do that, we'll take a look at Season 2 of the Open Series. Starting off in Syracuse, a fantastic venue, place that we went to last year, and we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is a shorter turnaround here. Season 2 is our shortest season with Syracuse, Providence, Cleveland, and Seattle, all standard opens as we go from April into the beginning of May. As we move over to the next slide here, you'll see Dallas, which is also standard, Worcester in Legacy, and then the Season 2 Invitational in Columbus, which will be tied to the Origins Game Fair. Modern and standard as the Invitational format with a modern 2-day open series and a standard and Legacy Premier IQ on Sunday.
Of those 7 shows, the only one that matters is Cleveland. Let's just call it what it is.
You've got 3 sweet ones for
just call it what it is.
yourself. You have Cleveland, Seattle, and Columbus.
Yeah.
No New Jersey shows through the first 2 seasons, and do not tell me that Philadelphia counts, because it does not.
How do you think the people of Philadelphia feel about what you just said?
Probably really happy, because the Philadelphia versus New Jersey divide is very significant.
That was quite
They
the
would
war.
not want to be lumped in either.
Okay, fair enough.
It's a mutually agreed upon divorce. It's not being contested.
That's tough to watch.
But season 3 will get it turned around.
Well, hopefully not.
Well, I know we have our invitational there.
Well, we do have to, unfortunately, go to New Jersey at least once.
Yeah,
But that's good enough.
contractual obligation.
I'm thinking maybe some more shows in Cleveland. Some might call me greedy, but after you go there just once, there's no going anywhere else.
So you get 2 shows in Columbus and a show in Cleveland through the first 2 seasons. That's not doing too bad.
It's okay.
For Ohio's favorite son, that is not bad.
I'm looking for the Open Series in Strongsville next. That's what I'm plotting.
That's being awfully specific. I have also asked for the Open Series to come to either Hillsborough, New Jersey, my hometown, or Princeton, New Jersey, my favorite place in New Jersey. We do it in Somerset, which is fine, but we could do a little bit better, I feel like.
Hone in
Yeah,
a little bit.
Princeton's awesome. It's like a place where time has stood still.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
Cobblestone roads and horse and buggy, it's great.
Strongsville is a delightful place. Cleveland is fine, but Open Series in Strongsville. I'm not even sure if there's a convention center in Strongsville. I'd have to take a look. There probably is, and I don't know it. But I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised by what Cleveland has to offer.
I hope so.
We have a lake that will keep you warm, but there are other things too.
I only went there for that Grand Prix.
That was horrible.
The Odyssey block.
A poor representation of Cleveland. Very bad representation. 2002.
Yeah. At whatever, converted steeplechase / swap meet we were at.
Yeah, I understand. It's not what you think. I swear it's nicer. A preordained to start here for Ross. It's called the IX Center. And
the IX Center.
And it's closed.
It's the only building I've been in my entire life where I was afraid of asbestos.
I think it broke some health code regulations.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. Here's a flooded strand and a passing of the turn over to Merriam. Merriam will draw. And Gataxian Probe. We'll bring Ross down to 18. Looks like Ed may want to sacrifice his flooded strand here in the meantime, and he will.
This smells of a pyroblast here, and I think rule number 1 against Storm is you just pyroblast the first thing that you can 99 times out of 100. There's no guarantee they play any blue spells past this one.
There is Pyroblast. It's funny, it seems kind of backwards to counter a Gataxian Probe, but protecting your hand is pretty undervalued, I think.
And, Ross's deck needs to get this critical mass of effects. So every time you, imagine it like this. Both players mulligan to 0. Who's advantaged? It's Ed.
Probably Ed? Yeah, okay.
So the more and more that you can make the game, we're now on 6 cards, we're now on 5 cards, we're now on 4 cards, the better and better it is for Ed.
Okay. Mr. David Long's got some fight in him. He ties things up, lands and Omnitel going to game 3. Though the tough thing there for David is that Nick with his Omnitel deck will be on the play.
And the matchup is a disaster.
There's
also,
that aspect
also
as well.
not good.
Here's a Brainstorm. Demicco will draw 3. A Brainstorm, a dig through time, and a Ponder is what he's found. 2 will have to go back. To the recoil, Baleful Strix as well. Just a lot of blue cards in Ed's deck after sideboard. Make sure he's got plenty of ammunition for Force of Will. He's gonna sacrifice that Scalding Tarn now. We'll see what land he wants to dial up. I'll go with an Underground Sea, as both players are 18 here. It's a Ponder, as Ralph Patesh does tie things up against Daryl Ayers, excuse me. the Tamer Delver Kurdape mirror. Deservedly so going to a Game 3.
Legacy staple. You know, the format deserves a Game 3 of that match. Good on the two of you.
Yes.
You know?
I hope they both start off with a Taiga and a Kurdape, just for you.
Well, hopefully not, because then the game can stalemate, because they don't attack past each other.
Sure, sure. Well, that's where the bluffing is involved.
Sure.
Here's a Cabal Therapy. You attack, they block, and then you wasteland their Taiga. Hello.
Oh, that is brutal. And if Ross is firing off this Cabal Therapy now, you might see some fireworks.
He named Force of Will. The hand here for Demicco is a Recoil, a Dig Through Time, a Brainstorm, and a Young Pyromancer. And there's a land. I see a Dark Ritual in his hand, but can't he do more, or does he have to wait?
Well, there's no interaction on that side of the table right now.
That is time in the round for Modern.
Merriam sacrificing both of those fetch lands.
Here we go.
Yeah, I think so. Gonna go down to 16 in the process. You can see Ross is figuring everything out right now. What lands am I gonna get? How am I gonna cast my Dark Ritual? And where am I gonna go from here? It'll be an Underground Sea and a Tropical Island. Of course, Tropical Island in his sideboard to facilitate Carpet of Flowers.
Although getting a tropical here is a bit odd. It almost implies like he's not going for the kill this turn, because if he was, he would just go get Underground Sea Volcanic Island, which facilitates all the combo pieces.
He did think pretty long and hard about that decision.
Something odd's going on with his hand. Maybe he's comboing off this turn and it's through ad nauseum and he's worried about maybe fizzling.
Well, it seems like he's comboing off this turn, and he is. 2 copies of Dark Ritual, Lotus Petal, along with an Infernal Tutor. Means that he has cast 5 spells this turn. The first of which, of course, was the Cabal Therapy to clear the road to that Force of Will. He's going to go with Searchin'. We'll see if it's Past in Flames or Ad Nauseum. Perhaps empty the Warrens.
I thought that empty would come in this matchup because Ed has no real way to punish him for it.
Incorrect. He does have a card in his sideboard. One you would not expect to see in Sudden Demise.
Oh.
And when he was shuffling through his deck, searching for a fetch land, I saw that in there. Now, he doesn't have it in his hand right now.
Sure.
But it could make its presence known, and if it does, I imagine this game ends. Now, Sudden Demise is a commander card. You choose a color, Sudden Demise deals X damage to each creature of the chosen color.
Well, Ross is aware that it's in the board, so, you know, they have access to each other's deck list. He's aware that this is a possibility.
Ross very unsure of himself if he's going to get Ad Nauseum or not, and he will get Ad Nauseum. And what this means, if he's using that land and that Lotus Petal, I believe that means he has no mana floating. So he looks like he may have to get a little bit lucky here, and I believe he's already played a land for the turn.
Yes, this is turn number 3.
Yeah.
Now, remember, he can go off halfway. He doesn't have to win the game this turn necessarily.
That's true.
He can load up and go for it next turn.
Down to 15. Let's make it 13.
So the card to really look out here for here is Lotus Petal. That's what allows him to get something initiated potentially.
And there's 1. As he's at 11 right now, let's make it 10 via Duress. 9 via Carpet of Flowers. How about 8, thanks to Dark Ritual? Staying at 8. Now it's 4.
All right. I would imagine we're pumping the brakes here.
Yep. Now, does he have enough to do it with 2 Lion's Eye Diamonds and a Lotus Petal in there, along with the Past in Flame, a Carpet of Flowers, and all that stuff? Maybe. Maybe.
Well, he gets to make this, gets him to 2 mana. The Lion's Eye Diamonds allow the facilitate the flashback. So he's got Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual. The Lion's Eye Diamonds can be used to cast Passive Flames out of the graveyard. I think he should be good.
Yeah, the carpet's the big one here. During your main phase, which can be during this one, you may add X mana to your mana pool of any one color. He chose black, thanks to the number of islands that Ed controlled, and he was able to go from there and get the job done. Ross Merriam is going to win this game and this match, 2-1. Storm will take care of Grixis control. We had a feeling it might do that. Game 1's just so bad for Ed, and then Ross has to just get one of the sideboarded games.